Today we are going to talk about resumes. First of all, what is a resume? A resume is a document that you will use to tell your audience, which may be a college, a future employer, about you, about your past, about your accomplishments, about your work history. All those things are included in a resume. You can use a resume when you're going to get a job, when you're getting into college, to get a scholarship, to get an internship. There's a lot of different uses for a resume. So we are going to practice writing our own resumes today. So resumes all need to look a certain way. When people go to read a resume, they expect it to have a certain layout and specific information that should be in there. This includes like your name, your address, your contact information, education, past jobs, experience, references, skills, things like that. So we will go over those in detail in a little bit. But make sure that you are following the, kind of a typical resume format when you're doing this. Okay, so what does a resume look like? Here is an image of kind of a sample of what a resume should look like. First of all, there should be some sort of heading. You have your name, your address, your telephone number, your email address. That way they know whose resume it is. You need to have that at the very top. Remember how I talked about in my last video that you should use a professional email address? So probably first name, last name, first initial, last name, something like that. So you don't have some of those weird grade school emails that you probably concocted. So after a heading comes the objective. So basically it just kind of lets people know what your objective is or what your point of the resume is or what your overall goal is. And this can also be a summary, kind of a summary of who you are. This is kind of up in the air about whether or not should be included in a resume. Some corporate positions don't think that this is they think that this is kind of old school and they don't think this should be included. So it's kind of leaving this up to you whether or not you want to include it in your resume. But it can be if you want to obtain a part-time job at Starbucks, you can literally say, my objective is to obtain a part-time job at Starbucks or something like that. So, or you can just give a summary about who you are. There's a lot of different options for that section. Next comes experience. So that kind of goes briefly over your work history. I know you guys don't have a ton of work history because you're still 8th graders. But if you do have some sort of work history like babysitting or working on a farm or something that shows work ethic or responsibility, that's important to put in here as well. You can also include some type of class project, some type of project that you worked on with other people to show collaboration. There's a lot of different options that you can put in experience if you don't have an actual job. But if you do have an actual job, you will put the title of the position, the name of the organization, the location, and the date of employment, and then a short description of what you did in that job. So the experience should probably be your biggest part of your resume because employers and people that are looking for interns and scholarship winners, they all want to know what you've done in the past. So that's the experience section. Next should be education and academics. So in education section, you list the schools that you have attended, which are it's probably St. Jude and LaSalle. So you put in there your GPA if you know what it is, any academic honors, awards, or recognitions that you got as well. The skills and additional information are kind of the next section. This also includes extracurricular activities. So if you have any specific skills that you have or any activities, this is where you would put your leadership roles, your volunteer experiences, any sports you played, band, show choir, yearbook, things like that. All that would go into the extracurricular. There's another section that's kind of optional for awards and achievements. If there's some award that you've won that you want to make sure that your future employer or your college knows about, then you'd put that in the awards and achievement section. Lastly, references should be on your resume. For those of you that don't know, references are people that can speak to your skills, abilities, character, work ethic, things like that. So if you have someone in your life that can speak to those things, you need to ask them to be a reference before you put them on your resume or you use them as a reference for a job or for a scholarship or applying for college. So this should not be people in your family. This should be other people that you know in your life, such as a teacher, a coach, a mentor, or something like that. I know that there's some people that put references available upon request in their resume, but I'm asking that you think of 1 or 2 people that you think could be a good reference for you and put that on your resume. Okay, so now let's just go over some brief formatting recommendations that I would have if you are creating a resume. First of all, use headings and subheadings. So if you are talking about your skills, put the subheading skills and then write what your skills are underneath it. So make good use of your headings and subheadings. Make your resume simple and make it easy to read. The eye flow of the resume should be pretty clear. There should be a hierarchy, and so as your reader goes down your resume, it should be easy for them to read the next point. Make it brief. They should only be short summaries in there or short statements. It doesn't have to be long paragraphs about what you did at a job or what skills you have. So keep it pretty short. Use a professional font. We talked about this when you're creating professional emails, but use fonts that are readable. Stick to like Times New Roman, Arial, something clean like that. 10 to 12 point font. It doesn't need to have curly cues or symbols or anything in it, so keep your fonts clean. Only include the most relevant information and make sure that the most important information is first. Research has shown that hiring managers only spend about 6 seconds per resume, and so you have 6 seconds to impress them. So make sure you're including the most important information, just so not stuff that you did when you were a 5th grader or when you were 8 years old. So keep key information at the top. So it should also go in chronological order. So the most recent stuff should be first, like in your work experience, and in your sports, like your most recent experiences should be first to your least recent experiences. Use active language. So your resume should be written with what they call power words. Words that show that you were doing something and that it makes what you're doing sound really important. So words like achieved, earned, completed, accomplished, led, effectively. So use those words to help give the reader an idea of how important your work was. So choose appropriate margins. Typically use about a 1-inch margin. I would say don't go any bigger or smaller than that. If you go smaller, you get rid of a lot of the white space, and white space is important for having a good look and a good layout to your resume. Consider making your lines about 1.15 or 1.5 space lines. Make sure that there's enough space in between the lines on the page that people can actually read it. Lastly, proofread and edit. So most companies, if there is any little grammar error or punctuation error, that resume automatically goes in the trash. So make sure that you take time to proofread, have other people proofread it to make sure it's error-free and has a good flow to it. All right, so now it's your guys' turn. So you get the chance to create your own resume. Yay! I have included some templates on Google Classroom for you to use, but you can feel free to create your own resume using your own templates and look, but just make sure that it looks professional. If you're having trouble knowing what to put in your resume in terms of experience or activities, I have also included some worksheets on Google Classroom that help you think through some of the things that you can include on your resume and which things are the best fit for your resume. All right, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. So have a great day, everyone.